For billions of years, countless species have been sending information back and forth. Vast networks of messages designed to defend against predators, acquire mates, and obtain food.
There is a staggering diversity of ways in which animals can communicate.
From microscopic bacteria to the largest animals on Earth, the ability to relay information has often determined a species' very survival. This is the story of communication.
Hyundai presents This Day in History.
Hi, I'm Russ Mitchell with a look at This Day in History, September 14th. In 1901, U.S. President William McKinley died from gunshot wounds. In 1939, aircraft designer Igor Sikorsky flew his first successful helicopter. And in 1994, the Major League Baseball season was canceled. And that's This Day in History.
Survival of the fittest. That basic tenet of evolution implies that in the animal kingdom, it's every creature for itself. To ensure their own survival, animals rely on a vast array of communication methods. Visual, chemical, vocal, and gestured. How effectively animals communicate can mean the difference between life and death. These researchers are investigating the lines of communication between prey and their predators. In this experiment, a snake is given a choice between two frogs. Which will it eat? The message of the poison dart frog is loud and clear. My bright, colorful skin is toxic. I am a deadly meal. The other frog isn't communicating anything at all. For most animals, finding food, reproducing, and living in social groups is totally dependent on the ability to share information, to communicate. And our world today is entirely dependent on organized flow of information. But humans aren't the only species whose lofty status in the natural world is owed to its powers of communication. Communication was also the evolutionary engine for creatures that first appeared 150 million years ago. A type of insect that would ultimately become one of the most numerous organisms on the face of the Earth. Ants.
There are a lot of ants in the world. If you took all the land animals and put them on a scale together and weighed it, 20% of what you just weighed would be the big pile of ants sitting on the scale.
But what can explain how such small, defenseless creatures became such evolutionary giants? Deborah Gordon and her colleague Mike Green have spent years investigating the collective power of ants.
What continues to fascinate me about ants is how such limited, apparently inept individuals in the aggregate can do such amazing things.
Few creatures work as tirelessly or cooperatively as ants. Their intricate nests are like mini cities, measuring meters in width and depth. Their engineering feats appear to be the results of rigid organization. But how do they stay organized? And how do they communicate? At first glance, an ant colony resembles a human construction site, where workers carry out specific tasks. The ant world features the same specialization. There are patrollers who search for food, and foragers who harvest food once it's found, and the cleanup crew who sweep the nest for dead ants. But whereas a human construction site has a foreman issuing verbal, written, or gestured orders, ants have no chain of command. In fact, ants display no visible sign of being able to communicate at all. How do ants know what to do?
An ant colony operates without any central control, no management, no hierarchy, nobody deciding what needs to be done.
The source of communication turns out to be simple chemicals that cover the body of the ant. Hydrocarbons.
A hydrocarbon is just a type of molecule that's made up of carbons and hydrogens. They're commonly found on the surface of not only ants, but all kinds of insects, especially social insects.
Hydrocarbons emit an odor, and many social insects use them to communicate a very basic piece of information. Are you one of us or one of them?
Most ants can't see. Their main form of perceiving the world around them is smell, and they smell with their antennae. When an ant touches another ant with its antennae, it can tell if the other ant is a nestmate.
We can actually test that nestmate recognition response using a glass block.
When a glass block covered with hydrocarbons from a rival colony is introduced to the nest,
This right here.
the ants immediately attack.
Those ants are biting the block right now.
Yeah, they are.
Could ants also use hydrocarbons to communicate more complex information? Signals that might tell them what jobs to do? When Green isolated the hydrocarbons from the surface of different ants, he discovered that each job had a different scent. This discovery led them to design an experiment to see if it was possible to communicate with ants. Could you compel ants to do a job simply by using hydrocarbons alone? Gordon and Green created mimic ants by coating glass beads with the hydrocarbons of patroller ants, the ants whose job it is to scout for food. Would these hydrocarbons communicate a message?
Each morning, the patrollers come out and search the foraging area, and the foragers won't come out until the patrollers come back. The patrollers need to come back at a certain rate to stimulate the foragers to go out. And by using these beads, we can mimic the rate at which patrollers come back.
When beads are dropped into the nest, the hydrocarbon scent communicates that the beads are returning patroller ants, and that it's time for these unemployed ants to take up a new job. Go get the food the patrollers had found.
It's not as though one ant gives another ant a message. It's that each ant can use its recent experience of interactions to decide what to do. So the message is in the pattern of interactions, not in any particular signal.
With this simple experiment, the researchers found that the mode of communication responsible for ants' ability to work together with such astounding precision is little more than a simple set of chemicals relaying information.
What's remarkable, they're interacting with each other in a really pretty simple way, but because the ants can assess the rate at which they interact with other workers, global changes can happen within their society, despite the fact there's no boss assessing all of this and telling each worker what to do.
This mode of communication has helped ants thrive for 150 million years.
An ant colony would be unable to survive if individuals didn't communicate with each other. For ants, the ongoing, very simple, repeated patterns of interaction are what sustains the whole life of the colony.
Ants have used communication to become some of the most successful creatures on Earth. But how did the process of communication first start? Which species first relayed information to each other? Does a huge, mysterious glow in the ocean seen for hundreds of years hold the answer?